Today's high-stakes runoff races in Georgia have made the Peach State the target for a political tug-of-war. Both political parties have campaigned hard for today's make-or-break contests. For more, I want to bring in Georgia Congressman Jody Hice. He represents the 10th Congressional District of Georgia, which covers a large rural area, including the city of Athens. Congressman Hice, welcome and congratulations on your recent re-election. How confident are you Georgia will remain red following today's runoffs?
Well, I'm totally confident that Georgia is red by about 5 points. The problem has been what our Secretary of State allowed to happen with the absentee ballots going out to everyone on the voter registration file. And of course, that file is inaccurate, probably in the ballpark of about 10%. So therein lies the problem. But there's been a lot of activity, as you mentioned. Both sides are out there working hard, and I believe at the end of the day, it's going to be a good day. But of course, we're all watching. Not only the balance of power in the Senate is at stake at this, but the entire political philosophy of our country, be it freedom or socialism, is at risk. And I believe the Georgians are aware of that.
And so you mentioned your concerns about November's election, which we'll get to in just a moment, but are you at all concerned about the security of today's election?
Well, sure. I mean, the problem in Georgia is once you begin an election cycle, you cannot change the rules throughout that election cycle. So much of the open doors that were given the voters of Georgia in November are still open, and therein lies a problem. That said, there have been some actions taken that I believe does help secure the vote, such as an additional 8,000 people that are now going to be poll watchers, observers, monitors, that type of thing. And of course, we all know when there are more eyes watching, the likelihood of fraud decreases. So I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, we will have as close as we can within the circumstances that we have been given by our Secretary of State, that we will have as close to a fair election as we can.
And so you're prepared to accept the results either way?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're going to deal with the election results as they unfold, and we, at the end of the day, want to see if there are serious allegations and more affidavits that come in potentially of voter fraud. I'm hopeful that that is not going to be the case in this one. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to experience as fair of an election as we can, and I hope that there will not be challenges to it. But, this is a big day, and I just hope and pray that we have good voter turnout and a good, honest election.
All right, Congressman, let's look ahead to tomorrow. You have said you are going to lead the objection for Georgia House electors against the confirmation of the 2020 presidential election. Why are you going to do that, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, look, again, this is, as we all know, a country of the people and by the people. And when we think of it being by the people, what does that mean but that the sacred responsibility and duty and honor that we have as Americans to vote, to voice our opinion at the voting booth? That is a sacred thing that we have had since the beginning of this country. When that sacred act of the American people is threatened or potentially filled with fraud, it becomes the duty of elected officials to defend and to do everything within their power to make sure that the voice of the people is heard. And that has been the issue. We have serious allegations of fraud, not only in Georgia, but in multiple other states across the country. And so it is a responsibility that I carry deeply to do everything within my power to investigate and to make sure that the voice and vote of the people, which is that which provides a balance of power in our country, is protected and defended. Senators, House representatives in Georgia have come out outspoken asking us to reject and decertify the electoral votes that were brought forth from Georgia because of the fraud, and I intend to do so.
But Congressman, with all due respect, your own state electoral officials, Gabriel Sterling, who is a Republican, Brad Raffensperger, a Republican, they have all come forward and said they've looked at each allegation of fraud individually investigated each one and debunked them. Yesterday, Gabriel Sterling had a news conference. I don't know if you heard it. He went through each allegation and was able to specifically debunk each one. Also, you were reelected for another term from the same ballot that shows President-elect Biden won Georgia. So how would you square those two things?
Listen, I welcome investigations in the 10th District of Georgia. Bring it on. But also let's do every other district and every other county in the state. There have not been serious allegations or affidavits come forth from the 10th District, but I welcome that. Let's check. Let's make sure we've had a fair election. And for Gabe Sterling to come out saying they have been debunked, it has not been debunked. The Office of the Secretary of State has over 250 open investigations into fraud into what took place in Georgia. There are multiple affidavits. The fact is they have not done the investigation. They have not done their job. They sit back without providing any evidence of anything, but just saying, oh, all of it's been debunked. It was all fair. It has not been fair. Let's get into it. Let's have the audits. Let's do the investigations. Let's make sure that the sacred right of the voting booth in this country has been clearly defined and protected. That's what's at stake, and that's what we need to have. Unfortunately, we don't have from our Secretary of State.
After 3 recounts, including, hand recounts, though, you're not satisfied? Well, I guess the next question really is, do you believe that this objection will reverse the outcome of the election and keep President Trump in office? And if not, why do it? Because your critics would say it's these actions that threaten the health of our democracy after all the states have certified their results and all the president's challenges have been heard in court and dismissed. In a country that follows the rule of law, we have to follow our court rulings, don't we?
Well, but you're incorrect. The courts have not heard the facts. They have rejected hearing the facts. They have rejected standing, or you're in the wrong court, or whatever. The facts have not been presented. And because we have not had our day in court, we are now going to have our day in Congress. We are going to present the facts as we understand them to our colleagues here in Congress, according to what our constitutional and our rule of law allows for us to do. And we're going to lay out the cases that, frankly, have not been allowed to be heard in the courts.
Well, do you worry that the Republican Party is perhaps setting a dangerous precedent for the country moving forward?
The precedent that we have in this country that we need to guard above all else is the right to vote, and the right for every legal vote to count and for every legal vote to be counted. And that is what is in question with what just happened. We have had multiple people and allegations who have cast votes that are not legal. And it is wrong for us to sweep that under the rug, to turn our head as though nothing went wrong, to not investigate it, and to not to prosecute those who potentially committed criminal activity as it relates to our election laws. And so that is the precedent. It must be protected.
And so what is the next step that you would like to see transpire?
Well, I mean, we will go through the process that we have before us according to the law tomorrow. And, in our case, and what's happened in Georgia, we have had multiple senators and state representatives, as I've mentioned, who have urged us through letters and so forth to decertify. They said that the hearings that they have had, the evidence that they have gleaned, the evidence that I personally have seen warrants the fact that the electoral votes in Georgia should not be certified. There's too many questions that do not give a clear answer as to who actually won the race. And so we're going to carry forth with what is provided us in the law, and we'll see how that turns out.
Congressman Jody Hice, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tanya.